Hey, welcome to the channel. Today, we diving into racism, the mental illness, the undiagnosed mental illness of racism. Thank you to the creators. Let's get into it.
Racism is absolutely a mental illness. Thank you so much for this comment. Mental illnesses are often defined by the ways in which we are thinking or behaving that's causing chronic stress and disordered functionality in our life. I would argue that clutching your purse tighter or walking across the street to avoid someone because you think the way they look means that they're going to hurt you is a sign of disordered thinking, especially if you have no direct trauma or life experience with being harmed by the demographic you're scared of. White people, white women especially, have a superpower to self-delude into altering the reality in front of them to serve their narrative. But when the thinking is disordered, the narrative is wrong.
Racism is a mental disease, and I wish they would study it as such in the United States. A woman took to social media and said, President Trump might be the most corrupt president the U.S. has ever seen, but I don't care as long as he's going after black and brown people. Do you understand that the United States doesn't have universal health care not because it's expensive, but because of eugenics? They believed that black people's genes were inferior, and if you denied them medical attention, all black people would die off in the United States. That was the goal, actually.
Eugenics. Yeah.
So there couldn't be universal health care because they wanted the blacks to die off, especially now that they couldn't be slaves anymore. It's expensive. Racism expensive because now we can't have universal education because a guy who created the SAT, you can look this up, felt there were too many people of color and too many immigrants getting into colleges. So he created a test that was extremely esoteric with answers only people in a certain learning environment and a certain lifestyle could answer, thus making it so that less foreigners and people of color could get into college. Weird, right? So you can't have free college because then black people would have access to it. And it doesn't stop there. Even when it comes to government assistance, there was a time they led white people to believe that they were getting government aid, but black people were getting welfare. Those welfare queens over there versus you who's getting government assistance. They actually led them to believe that there were two different systems of aid, one for black people, one for white people. And not understanding, it's like Obamacare versus ACA. They are the same thing. But they don't understand that because they use this rhetoric to make it sound different. And now they keep making cuts to welfare, which is now affecting the other people who thought that they were on government assistance, government aid. It's extremely expensive to be racist.
If that stuff was only for black people's benefit, it would not exist. So we're killing that narrative this year. None of that stuff is for our benefit because it wouldn't exist if said so.
And if they don't see that it's having a negative impact on their life and affecting their life from being better, then something is fundamentally wrong with them, which is why I'm saying racism must be a mental disease. You can't be okay with watching your own children suffer just to know that another person of color that you don't know is suffering. That makes no sense. Something's wrong with you. And I'm not going to say it's like depression or something like that, but there is something wrong with you if you are a heavy racist person. Something is amiss. And I know people are going to get into comments and say, oh, that I'm being ridiculous and I'm being mean and I'm being nasty, but it concerns me that people are okay knowing that their child won't have proper health care just to ensure that black people don't get it. That makes no sense to me. I don't care if my enemy has what I have as long as I'm get well taken care of. I don't care if you have it. That kind of makes sense. I'm doing better. That's what's more important here. So this is my soapbox. Y'all have a great day. Such is life.
Did you know that being racist against minorities makes you statistically dumber than the rest of the population? There's actually science to back this up. So in the early 2000s, there was a study done at Dartmouth, and the researchers wanted to see what the brain did, what parts of the brain did when white people were interacting with black people. So they hired on a bunch of white participants and had them interact with a black person to see what would happen. First, they gave every white participant an implicit association test to categorize them from the highest bias against minorities to the lowest bias against minorities, and then had them jump in an fMRI machine to see what their brain was doing during this interaction. After this conversation, every white participant had to do what's called a Stroop test. Essentially, you name a color that is written out on the paper, but it's a different color, so it makes your brain work twice as hard to figure out what color it is. It seems easy, right? A lot of the racist ones failed the test of naming the correct color, and or that took them 10 times longer. And when they looked at the scientific data for the high racially biased people, they discovered that their prefrontal cortex had a significant drop in activity.
Okay.
That center is specifically responsible for top-down control of your brain to perform everyday tasks and your impulse control. The most interesting part of this, though, was their data showed that their amygdala was overreacting. The amygdala is the fear center. They were afraid. They're scared. So statistically speaking, if you're racist against minorities, you're dumber than the rest of us. Your brain doesn't work correctly. How about that?
So I don't know what isn't like connecting, but racism is a mental disorder. You guys get that, right? It starts with being gullible, right? You have one group of people where history literally shows has been destructive, has been hurting others, has been XYZ. Yet me, 5'6", walking down the road, smiling, cheering, SpongeBob vibes, you wanna clutch your purse? Like I'm gonna take it?
I always wonder how that worked, because the narrative don't support the data. The data says otherwise. History says otherwise. History says we are not the ones to be concerned with. So propaganda is a motherfucker, man. Supremacy is a motherfucker, bro.
Like I'm gonna take it? Listen, I'm not the one you should be afraid of. Let's be real. I'm not the one you should be afraid of. You know what I mean? Like, the stats clearly show.
Yeah.
You can go on any government mandated website and see
And
who's
find
in the lead by the millions when it comes to crime and hurting others.
Yeah.
You can see who is in leadership, creating all these things that makes almost everyone but the billionaires unhappy. Racism is a mental disorder.
Yep.
It's a mental disorder. It means you're gullible. Someone can say, oh, this plant is blue. And for generations, you'll go on telling your kids that the plant is blue. And don't get me started on the N-word.
Child, y'all remember a few weeks ago I said racism is a sign of low intelligence. And while many of us got it, there were a few people saying that I was letting racist white people off the hook. And baby, here I am again, because these racist white people are coming out in droves. So let me take a little bit of time and talk about why. Racism is a sign of low intelligence. And it's not about IQ. It's about a choice. When you willingly refuse to use critical thinking skills, when you choose to cling to rigid ideology, your brain literally stops growing. And baby, that's not my opinion. That's neuroscience. The science says that our brains are wired for neuroplasticity, meaning we can grow and adapt and form new connections. But when you cling to prejudice, your brain strengthens the bias pathways instead of opening new ones. Hate literally shrinks your capacity for empathy, curiosity, and complex critical thinking. So when I say racism is a sign of low intelligence, I mean that thing. It is a conscious decision to stay small. To block your own brain's ability to expand. Fast forward to right now. This man's racist, homophobic, and misogynistic statements are resurfacing. And some people are finally paying attention. What's wild is a lot of us didn't even know this man existed. But now the mask is off. His words, his ideology is ultimately how he exited this place.
Yes.
That tells you everything about the poison he was carrying and spreading. And let me say this, because too often it gets ignored. Racist white women are just as dangerous, and even more so, than racist white men when it comes to upholding white supremacy. Think about Carolyn Bryant Dunham, whose lies cost Emmett Till his life.
Yep.
Think about Amy Cooper in Central Park, ready to weaponize the police against a black man for simply existing. And then I think of so many more black men and women who have been harmed and traumatized, all at the hands of racist white women, or the countless racist white mothers fighting to ban books, erase black history, and police classrooms, and the ones raising these racist white men. Baby, the danger just doesn't come in hoods and tiki torches. It comes in fake smiles,
Suits.
fake compliments, yoga pants,
Yep.
and PTA meetings too. So no, saying racism is a sign of low IQ ain't about excusing racism. It's about naming it for what it is. A willful choice to kill your own capacity for growth. And when you make that choice, the harm, it inflicts generations to come. So y'all stay safe out there.
Racism is a mental illness. It's an evil mental illness. And it is a psychosis where it makes people delusional. It makes them violent. It makes them rhymes with murderous. It makes them obsessed and obsessive. It makes them paranoid. It makes them bipolar schizophrenia. It makes them into narcissists. And it goes into some deep-seated inferiority complex that can only be satiated through this type of psychosis. Yeah. And the fact that the American Psychiatric Association has not designated a mental illness tells you that the psychiatrists themselves are often mentally ill with racism themselves.
Yeah.
Because it makes no sense.
Yep. And that was one of the main things with me before we had access to a lot of this stuff, and even the data proven today, right? The people taking a lot of this data have biases as well. So that has to go into account.
I think that we should be studying racial interactions because we really need to start diagnosing people with cognitive disorders and mental illnesses, because racism is illogical. It is a form of a mental illness. And if we took more time to dissect and learn and try to walk through the steps that lead people to having these racial mental breakdowns, then we could begin solving racism. Because racism isn't just going to go away by shaming people into not being racist. They're just going to bottle it up and it's going to become further trauma. Because let's be clear, racism is a trauma response. It's an epigenetic trauma response at that. And it is rooted in fear, right? Is it your amygdala? That's what I was trying to say in the video. Your amygdala? I don't know. But there's a gland in your body that processes fear, right? When fear is activated, your logic, your frontal lobe doesn't work well. So racism is a mental illness. And I think that it needs to be a philosophical or psychological field of study, because the people who have this issue need to be diagnosed in the DSM-5. I'm not saying they need to get a check or nothing, but their insurance sure the hell need to cover it. These people are not functioning properly. And when you think about the amount of people who are racist in America, you can see why we have a dysfunctional society. Because there are people who have cognitive disorders running around, and a lot of them are in systems of power. Everybody needs to be diagnosed, right? There needs to be a test for racism.
Yeah.
Racism is a mental illness, and I will always advocate that it should be studied by medical professionals. Like the same way they take football players' brains after they pass on to see if they were suffering from CTE, they need to do that with extremely racist people to see what is going on in their brain. Because let's be honest, what did we do?
Nothing.
Like, what have we ever done besides exist around these people? In fact, for hundreds, if not thousands of years, we did not exist around these people. We lived in our own spaces. We lived in our own countries, our own communities. And y'all came and got us. Y'all came and grabbed us.
Right.
Brought us over here.
Right.
You took our land, took our resources, hoarded it for yourselves, continue to take our time and our energy and look for any way to get under our skin when we don't even be thinking about y'all.
We don't.
Despite the fact that everything society is built on benefits you, these people, some of these people cannot escape their mental illness. I mean, what else can you call it? What else can you call racism besides a mental illness? How is it that you could be an individual who lost their husband, saw him unalived in front of the entire world? Everybody saw it happen. The person who did it confesses, they get caught. You look at that person and say, I forgive you. Whatever reason you did it, I'm sure you just had a reason, and I forgive you. So does my husband, who you took from me. But a comedian makes a skit about you and your behavior that everybody recognizes is very strange.
These are facts.
Behavior that has everybody giving you the side eye, including people that worked with your husband. But that's the thing that pisses you off. That's the thing that you need to get lawyers. That's the thing that sets you off to the point where you and all of these people in your community go, you know what? We about to do some blackface.
Selective outrage. They did this the day after he was pew-pewed. They threatened HBCUs because a white gentleman took his life, but they call HBCUs bomb threatening them. Just crazy, bro.
Like, they've all but said it at this point. We're gonna do blackface now.
It don't make sense.
Now we're gonna do it because we have to. Because see, we cannot live in a world where you guys have any sort of joy, you know? We can't live in a world where you guys make light of anything at our expense. That's not how this hierarchy works. We do the punching, we do the agitating, we do the dominating. And the second you speak up, the second you do anything to buck back against that system, we are the victims. We are threatened. We need to remind you what your place is in our society. That is a mental illness. That is a severe mental illness. It needs to be studied.
I mean, at this point, you really can't dispute it. Like, I don't know no other way to frame it. You got people that saying I'm a proud racist, so you're a proud stupid. It makes no sense. And the stupidest part about the whole thing, right, is the fact that most of you don't even have, most of these people that have these strong feelings about black people don't even have these interactions. Or not even just black people, just racists in general. You're not even in proximity. A lot of you watch movies, or you watched a very biased compilation on YouTube. You watch degenerate shit, and then you form your opinion, and then you want to have a strong belief system, which is based in lies. It's not true. It's not true. If going back to the whole food stamps and government assistance thing, right, which is the same thing, okay? As I said before, if those systems were put in place for only black people to benefit from, they wouldn't exist. You really think that dude that's in office right now wouldn't have gutted that the first day like he did with the diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative? You think he wouldn't have, he would have gutted it the first day if black people were the only beneficiaries for it? That shows you who benefits the most from all of this. It is a mental illness, and we need to talk about it as such. People that speak and say racist things This dude, Charlie, went on a whole college campus tour being racist and galvanized an audience of racist individuals behind his racism with half-truths, lies, deception, half data, and he pick and choose who he wants to argue with. Racism certainly is a mental disorder. Now, I'm going to make a follow-up video showing this other woman, showing an example of how we got to be careful about that, because there are people that have mental disorders that are not racism. This is the disease. This is a disease. Sorry. Racism is a disease, not a disorder. Let me correct that. It's a disease. And you're making a choice, unbiasedly, propagandized, to be that way. It's a choice at the end of the day. But most of y'all, I'm gonna pull you by your coattail. Most of y'all aren't even around enough people like that to begin with to even feel that way. So that's false to begin with. You're just making it up at this point. Be respectful in the comments. Leave a like, comment, share. I'm gonna see y'all in the next one. Peace.